Hello YouTube and welcome to GrunfWorks. This is episode 10 of the interplanetary voyage of exploration. And today's episode it will be a little bit more packed. First of all, we will show only the highlights from the previous mission to Minmus. As you recall, in the previous episode I have shown a mission where I was sending a small science probe to the moon. Since I have designed two exactly the same probes and rockets, in this highlights I will be showing the exact same probe going to Minmus. So please, a significant part of this episode will be in time compression, showing just the highlights, because I don't want to repeat too much of the previous content, because it would be just boring. So, with that in mind, this will be a very busy episode, as we will be showing going to the Minmus of this episode, of this probe, which had the same problems as the previous one, that being lack of SAS. And then afterwards we will be exploring and building two ScanSat probes that will be going in the polar orbit around Moon and Minmus. So I'm here, you can see me gathering some science around Minmus, closing the orbit, and then performing some rounds around Minmus. So pretty much same probe, same thing, just going a little circle. And here I'm a little bit struggling in terms of pointing my craft correctly because of the lack of the SAS. So I had to burn slowly using only the engine. So I was maintaining connection to the KSC, and I did a couple of laps with gathering science in mind. So toggle auto collect on. Gravity scan. Passing over the surface of Minmus, sensor sweeps around the gravitational field. Okay. Keep the data. Gravity scan. Passing over the surface. Yeah, it's kind of repeating itself a little bit, so it's not really. It's going over different biomes, so this is like Minmus Minlands. Sadly, the readings indicate the Minmus is far too dense to be composed of mint ice cream. Yes, so the reasoning behind today's episode and sending two probes to Moon and Minmus in the polar orbit for the ScanSat will be, of course, preparing and picking up the landing site. So, a little bit more of the science stuff around Minmus. And as the whole moons will be scanned, then we will pick a landing site for our next mission, hopefully. So, flying a little bit more around Minmus, looking at that sunrise, and it says, once again, I urge, please, if the people behind the community science logs see this video, please, Minmus needs some gravity information or some gravity texts, because it's just over and over the same thing. So, gravity space from scans from space above lowlands and multispectral. Several interesting features are observed in the infrared spectrum of this analysis. You're also noticing that I'm mostly keeping the data as opposed to transmitting them, because I want to recover as much as possible. Since I'm playing with audio stack tree, I need every little bit of science that I can get. So the idea is do a couple of laps, gather some science as much as possible, and then come back to Kerbin, land, and recover the probe. So that's kind of the reasoning behind this probe. So okay, one or two more laps, and then we will be ready to go back home to Kerbin. So just a quick mission, gathering as much science as possible, pretty much same thing what we did with the moon in the last episode, and then I will be showing a little bit more unlock of the tech tree, so you can see, we will be able to see what I was planning, what was my reasoning behind it, and then hopefully we will be launching ScanSat probes in the polar orbits. Okay, here you can see the probe returning. I'd chosen to show you bits and pieces rather than the whole mission, because it would need to be too much accelerated, or alternatively, if I just said, oh, I've been there, I mean, wouldn't really be the point. This is sort of a little proof and just some highlights. Let me know if it was too boring, too tedious, or next time I'll just drop that part out. Alternatively, I think this highlights is like not too tedious. I mean, it's 5 minutes out of 30, which I usually record. So, that's it. Recovering the vessel, and now we are going, and by the way, we had an issue with the dangit. One of our batteries has short-circuited while we were actually doing stuff. So, let me show. And we have 1450 science, and we have a new recruit. I have chosen to recruit Uno G. Kerman, and he will be a pilot, and also Dangrad and Gregkin. So a couple of pilots joining our ranks, and they will probably be sent out in the next episode as a part of the team that might be going to the moon or Minmus, depending on which we decide to go. So we're going through the research. We're researching more advanced probe cores. Then I was going for advanced rocketry to enable more and smaller parts for the probes, because less is more. A little bit bigger fuel tanks, a little bit more oomph in terms of the engines. I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure entirely if I'm gonna take it. Then batteries, definitely gonna need them. Fairings and control parts. Then camera, I'm thinking about it, but probably not yet. Just separatrons we don't need yet. Chutes, maybe some more science parts like materials bay for sure. Then a bit more science stuff. So the more science we go and get, I mean, the better for us. Ultimately, some more ScanSat stuff, a little bit more cacti telescope parts. So pretty soon we will be assembling a telescope in the Kerbin orbit, from which we will be hopefully scanning Moon, Minmus, and maybe some further other planets. I deliberately have chosen not to plan transfer windows to other planets before we actually go and see them with our own cacti, so that we kind of make a measurements, estimate where they are, etc., etc. So a little bit kind of progression I'm trying to be a little bit consistent about. So doing this, we have also unlocked some upgrade points for Kerbal construction time, and here I'm kind of using them to up our research rates and our build rates, and also starting secondary build queues. Then I'm showing you the accelerated process of creating a ScanSat probe. You've seen me do this for the Kerbin, but now this time I will be doing those for Moon and Minmus. So, and I'm kind of thinking maybe launching a single rocket that will be launching both probes. Those probes are a little bit more specific because they need to have a bigger antennas, more batteries to account for that, and also I've chosen to add another scanner, which was a biome scanner, because in the previous episode probe that I sent around Kerbin, I sent anomaly scanner, which I think it's more of a rover component when you're close to anomalies, but yeah, so this is the regular altimetry scan that will be performed around Moon and Minmus. And then I have chosen to do the other one, which I don't recall exactly the name. It's not this anomalous sensor, it's the other one, yeah. Spectrometer, I think it's the one that can basically detect biomes. And then again, this telescope also provides a lot of data because you can spy on different places. Also magnetometer. I mean, basically the more science we get around those celestial bodies, the more information and the better choice we have in terms of actually choosing a landing site and being better prepared for the mission that is to ensue. So I actually didn't like this clipping, so I think I will probably add a couple of more batteries. And basically you can see that I'm using them both for the body and also, well, not for the body and soul, that's for sure, but it's kind of convenient to build body made of the batteries, because then they will probably last longer in terms of if we come to darkness, and they will account for more battery drain if necessary. So now I have decided to create it and save this as a sub-assembly, because this is the satellite that will be launching in the orbits. And then we'll put separatrons in between and just put two of them, one after each other. And now starting to build a lifter. So yeah, basically putting some fairings on top. So like I said, a single rocket to launch them both, and then each of them will be performing its own insertion burn and basically circularizing our orbit around that particular body. So here I'm kind of just struggling a little bit with the choice of the engine. So first the LVT-45s, and then I need some more oomph on the side, because I'm kind of thinking 6,000. Well, probably it's enough, but I just want to be on the safe side. So pretty much similar to the ones that we launched, but this time we're launching two of them. So now I'm just rearranging the staging a little bit, double checking that everything is as it should be. I'm trying to always aiming for the thrust to weight ratio at when starting from Kerbin around 1.8, and now I've decided to go and just build a vessel and preparing everything, and I think it's time that we kind of blast off. So a little bit accelerated launch to the orbit. I'm just tilting ever so slightly until I've gotten the booster separation. Being very light on the gravity turn, simply because my payload is tall and I didn't strut it from the inside. So just to be on the safe side, I thought it would be better to do small adjustments. So we got our apoapsis up to 100, and time to ditch the fairing. As you can see, two probes, basically one on top of the other, or two satellites. So time to activate a communitron, just to make sure that we don't lose the connection to the Kerbal Space Center. And already we are getting some science. So I'll probably just extend the panels first, because I don't want to be running out of battery, although we have more than enough of electric charge, maybe even for the whole mission, but still. Running out of electric charge when you're playing with remote tech is definitely not fun. So let's see what we got here. Magnetometer or orbital telescope. A closer look at Kerbin's water confirms that it is indeed blue. Wow, that's deep. So magnetometer. Initial scans indicate a large magnetic field surrounding Kerbin. Its intensity decreases with increasing altitude. Well, sounds like useful info. Okay, going to do the circularization. Time to store away our magnetometer. Okay, this time I was pretty careful to choose the octos which do have SAS authority. Well, that's kind of the point of the Kerbal Space Program. Learn from your previous mistakes, isn't it? Now, one good advice I could give you is definitely make sure that you put all of your, or enable all of your antennas, and that you set your targets before you do leave Kerbin. So, and here I'm using Remote Text Flight Computer for the initial, for the circularization burn, just to be on the safe side that we get 127 with 127. And now you can see me setting targets. Basically, since I'm using the communications network that we launched in episode 8, the idea is that each of those satellites has a connection towards Moon and Minmus and to the active craft. So whichever of the satellites will be an active craft, it will have a connection, at least from the perspective of satellites, towards the craft. So this is, now we're doing the separation of the two satellites and then the second separation from each other, and separate. So from here onwards, each of them will be performing their separate missions, so it's only fair that we rename them. So first one will be Satellite Moon Scansat 1, and the second one will be Minmus 1. So this reaction wheels is interesting. Not enough electric charge. I don't know why is that. Okay, so this is the second satellite, so we will rename that one as well. Control from here, and rename the vessel Sat Minmus Scansat Mark 1, or Scansat 1. And notice that on this I didn't toggle the autocollect, because I don't want all the data or the science data to be transferred into the probe core, because I will be transmitting them back home. So because those guys are not coming back, they will be a permanent fixture in the orbits around Moon and Minmus. So tweaking a little bit towards the first probe, towards the Moon orbit, and using a remote tech flight computer to execute the maneuver. I found it to be really convenient because it gets pretty close when it comes to the actual maneuver. So you can see we have a very nice periapsis, and I'm putting an alarm for the Kerbal alarm clock, another mod that I'm playing with, just to make sure that it alerts us when we come near the sphere of influence change. And since we're now in orbit high, we are deploying magnetometer and orbital. So interactions with the solar wind significantly distort Kerbin's magnetic field, resulting in a composing field of Kerbin's solar side and Tapir's tail on the opposite side. It looks like there is some building down there. Maybe Kerbin's surface isn't uninhabited after all. Well, definitely it's not uninhabited. I mean, where the hell did we come from otherwise? So toggling magnetometer to retract the magnetometer boom, and slightly going further away, and we are switching to the Minmus probe. So basically I'm trying to simultaneously do the missions, so while one is en route to Moon, the other one will be en route to Minmus, just to make it more time efficient, because the second one doesn't really need to stay in the orbit while we do the first mission. So the first one comes, after one full orbit, the first one does come into the Moon's sphere of influence, or alarm triggers, and we switch to it. So now the next thing to happen is gathering a little bit more science. So first of all, we created a node that will make it go into the polar orbit, and then hold maneuver prograde and execute the maneuver. Some kind of warping here to come closer. Then I realize I have some science. So, magnetometer and orbital telescope. Things don't look far away. A weak magnetic field indicates the Moon may have once contained molten iron core. Things don't look so far away now. Okay, well, whatever. As long as we are sending some science back home, I'm happy. So, like I said, the point of these probes are to record the surface, map the altimetry, map the biome, so that on the next mission, once we will be coming, we know where to go. Okay, and executing the maneuver. This is a lovely shot. I actually might make this as a screenshot. Doing the burn over the Moon with a nice view of Kerbin. Definitely a winning proposal. So, now we're in the orbit, so in the next node we will be extracting the... I think the scan set optimal altitude for deploying the altimetry scan is at around 250 kilometers. So I'm trying to basically put us in a circular 250 kilometer orbit around Moon. And we'll be doing the same thing around Minmus. So okay, it's circularized 257 by 251. So disabling the engine and starting the multispectral scan to map the biomes, and and our light bulb has burned out. Well, dang it. Seems that so far I've been pretty lucky that the dang it hasn't become something more dangerous. So let us see. Yes, we are recording the data. Cool. So we will have enough electric charge, and let us go back now to the Minmus probe. So I don't know, for some reason I thought I did the Minmus burn, but obviously I didn't. So I only basically circularized around Kerbin. So now I'm preparing to do the plane change, because when you're going to Minmus you actually have to perform a plane change. I mean, if you have just started with a series and you're looking for the first moon to land, I would recommend go with Minmus. You do have an extra step of aligning planes in terms of aligning planes with Minmus, so making sure that you basically get on the same plane, but in my opinion, it is much better and easier planet to land on because the gravity on it is much less, as indicated by our probe that has returned back to Kerbin, because that one had the gravioli which was detecting the gravity around Minmus. So we know for a fact that Minmus has lower gravity. That's will make hopefully our landings much easier. So preparing to do the transfer. While doing so, we put some orbital telescope observations, because more science. Another one. A few sabicactuses are visible from up here, and that's above deserts. Well, then it must have a very good resolution if you can see the cactuses from the orbit. 2 minutes and 40 seconds until the maneuver burn, and now we are executing, or flight computer is executing the burn. I also found the flight computer to be a cool addition to the gameplay, because, I mean, when you're using with the probes, you're only expected to do something, remotely. So you don't always manually fly the probes. I mean, here the time delay is pretty insignificant. However, the more it comes into play, the more difficult it will get. So alright, going to Minmus, performing some final optimizations in terms of our apoapsis, periapsis, and a little bit fiddling with the nodes, and we are back, and we are now in the sphere of influence of Minmus, or just now transitioned. So, magnetometer scan and orbital telescope. Minty, gelatinous, sweet. Frozen ice cream doesn't emit a magnetic field, dummy. Minty, gelatinous, sweet. Must get closer. Yeah, well, it looks like a big ice cream looking from afar, so I can understand the Kerbals' fascination with going close, that they can almost taste it. That's for sure. So, let us burn for the orbital capture. We have more than plenty of delta V, because we don't really need to save anything to get back. Okay, execute, and let us get closer. Here we are. 3 minutes to burn. My alarm clock is set that it fires every 3 minutes before any maneuver node, which I think is kind of good, because it kind of reminds us that we have to think about the maneuver node. So, yeah. Performing the burn. 246 by 228. Well, we might need to do a little bit slight correction, so that we get 252 by 246, more or less. I think that should be more than acceptable. So let us go through the node, going down, and three minutes to the maneuver node, and now we have returned the connection to the KSE. So I actually think I went overboard. Oh well. Maybe I'll just flip it. Or maybe I just won't care. Kill rotation. Yeah, like whatever. So, shut down engine. Toggle magnetometer. And let us start our scans. So, starting the radar scan and starting the multispectral scan. Cool. So, this has been pretty much it for this episode. I hope you liked the episode. It has been a little bit more action-packed. If you like the episode, do like the episode, and for more content, hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much. This is GrunfWorks signing off.